Okay, so as you just said, after COVID, you normally need to arrange a meeting for client, and most of the meeting are currently one-on-one meeting or face-to-face meeting. That's right. So why don't you delegate your work? Why don't you send me to talk to the client? Yes.
So how do you tackle like those client who like doesn't know about any tech?
So how do you prepare yourself before meeting the client?
So I have one question which I really want to ask.
So I want to increase my timeline, but you already plan a sprint, and Gaurav sir already decided whatever the reason I don't want sprint will be deployed on 10th of January.
Like there are few clients which actually told about Gaurav, use AI to build the project and deliver in a one day.
Yes.
So how do you like tell them like this is actually not possible?
Yeah.
So
Hello everyone, welcome to BoatCast. So today we have Gaurav sir. He is the founder of Squareboat. Hello sir.
Hi.
So sir, I'm always seeing you in a very busy state. Can you tell me what is your day-to-day life cycle? What are you doing from morning to evening? Can you
Yes,
tell me?
yes, absolutely. I think that's to a lot of people tell me that I'm always busy, permanently busy. So it's just kind of true, but it's busy in a very good way, right? So typically what I'm doing, I mean mostly I mean my time, if I look at it, is mostly in two three parts. One is clearly looking at internal operations, how things are going, deliveries are going in the company. The second important part of my time goes into strategy in terms of thinking how we can improve, how we can become better at what we are doing. Some part of it also looks into hiring, how kind of talent acquisition, some founder rounds, things like that. But I think the most important part of my job here, if I look at it as a KRA, even for myself, is essentially bringing growth to the company, getting bigger, better prospects, more bigger clients to work with us, and being able to convince them about the value addition that we can do for them and the value that our technology team and design team can add for them. That is really, in my opinion, the biggest and probably the most important role that I play in this company, apart from all the other parts that I mentioned. So that keeps me busy for most of the time. Fortunately, after COVID, my travel has come down quite significantly. Pre-COVID, I used to travel a lot because a lot of people always wanted to meet in person. Fortunately, that's not the case. So the number of meetings that I have to do, a lot of people don't realize how many people normally we have to speak to get uh maybe a one project to come into the company, right? It's not that we are bad at what we do. It's a normal process of the sales. It's a normal part of a sales process. When you speak to 5 customers, maybe one of them agree to work with us. And that's a lot of hard work. When being able to repeatedly go and speak to people, to be able to tell them and convince them about our sales proposition, about the value that we are adding, what cost, what timeline, whatever we are normally discussing in terms of getting a client on board, that requires persistent effort. It requires multiple rounds of discussions, and sometimes they go through, sometimes they fall through, right? So we have to be very clear that not everything gets converted into a client, and not everything will convert into successful business. So my role is to keep talking to people, keep myself visible, try to see where opportunities are and speak to people and get those people to work with us. That's the most important part of my job.
Okay, so as you just said, after COVID, you normally need to arrange a meeting for client, and most of the meeting are currently one-on-one meeting or face-to-face meeting.
That's right.
So why don't you delegate your work? Why don't you send me to talk to the client? Yes.
So that's a good point. I think it's. I think I've been asked this question quite a lot. So it's. I mean, so we have absolutely. I mean, I would love to have that, right? So, but I mean, most of the meetings, and if you, I mean, a lot of people would naturally assume that because we are a tech company, when I go and speak into a meeting, I'm normally talking about technology. But if you really, the reality is, it's absolutely nothing to do with technology, right? The most important part that I'm going and solving in a meeting is to try to understand what the client wants, that need, what is the business problem that they're trying to solve, and how Squareboat can deliver effective solutions is what the discussion is mostly about. Once the value proposition is clear that Squareboat can be a good partner, that is when the technology part of discussions normally start, right? it is very common that people assume that when we go there, I would talk about what our tech stack is, and what our process of software development is. Yes, those are important aspects, but that is not the main aspect. The main aspect is whether the company that we are going to work with sees us as a trustable partner whom they can delegate their work, and they feel confident that we have the ability and the credibility and the experience to do that. That is 90% of my discussion. Remaining 10%, yes, when the technology discussion starts to emerge, sometimes if it is basic discussions, then I'm doing it on my own. But when I feel that questions are getting complex and they're asking very specialized questions which need experts like you guys, that is when I normally pull in my dev team and my senior engineering team, and I get them to speak to the clients directly, because that part of the discussion is also equally important, that they want to be convinced about working with our senior leaders and being able to understand whether people in the team are capable of delivering what they are looking for. So that definitely happens. For some people, it is a part of the process. Some people really don't care. Then they would say, okay, as long as you are assuring us as a company, we don't necessarily want to get into details. So we have all kinds of people that want to work with us.
Understood.
So how do you tackle like those client who like doesn't know about any tech, right? But they prepare a mind that they have like a business idea.
Yeah.
How do you convert that business idea into a real tech, right? And provide technological solutions, keeping in mind that there are tons of things which is possible in a tech, but there are few things which is not possible in a tech, right? But client really want that. So how do you tackle those kind of situations?
Yeah. So fortunately, I come from a technical background as well. You know that, right? So I've been a
Yeah.
software developer myself. So, and plus I spend a lot of time on my day-to-day basis in terms of keeping myself up to date with whatever is going on in the technology space. So typically, if you ask me, about an hour and a half, usually, either in the morning, late in the evening, I am going and spending constantly to keep myself up to date in terms of what is going on in the technology space. So that awareness is very acutely there, right? See, that when somebody comes to me and asks me how to solve a given business problem using technology, I think I have that context, I have that know-how, I have that awareness of what the current ecosystem is looking like to be able to give very intelligent answers, right? It does not, I mean, the last thing I would want is to sound like a sales guy. That is not the intention at all. If it's a conversation requires technical inputs, then I would rather give technical inputs. And for most of the people that we have been working with, I think my awareness level is more than sufficient for them to be able to have a smart, intelligent technical discussion with me. And if it requires even more in-depth understanding, then definitely I need support for both of you, and we would then take the conversation to our tech team, and that is when you guys start to step in.
Okay. So I have one question which I really want to ask you. Like there are few clients which actually told about, Gaurav, use AI
Yes.
to build the project
Yes.
and deliver in a one day.
Yes. True.
So how do you like tell them like this is actually not possible?
Yeah, sure. So I have had these experiences. A lot of people, so funny experiences where people would come to our office and say, okay, you have a pretty big team, right? But why do you need the team, right? Why do you need the team? That is the question. That why do you need the team? Why don't you just use AI and develop everything, right? So
Yeah.
it is, I think, this is a lot of this misinformation that AI can effectively replace human programmers, AI can do everything. I think this misinformation spreads quite rapidly. I'm sure there are part of some, though people might have been part of some WhatsApp groups where these kind of discussions would have been happening, God knows, right? But the reality is that I being the the slightly the more sensible person to answer things in a slightly more objectified manner, I would tell them that yes, we are using AI. We are using AI to make our people more productive, but we have not yet, or I don't think we will ever reach a stage where human input will be completely replaced by AI. AI will act as a huge boost in productivity. It might be able to deliver some initial version of some MVP prototypes, and that should be it. And maybe for then that happens, we will be the first people in our city to tell you that it is possible, and let's do it through AI. But if you are looking for a software which is elaborate, complex, and solves multiple business challenges, and you want us to build it, certainly using at this point in 2025, using a purely AI to build that software solution currently is not possible. So you will still need a company like us to be able to deliver that level of software outcome.
Okay. So, how do you prepare yourself before meeting the client? So, do you prepare our previous work? Do you show normally how we working or our normally? I think you always show our Squareboat websites too, because whatever the client we are pitching, firstly they can you please show your website?
Yeah, sure.
So that side for question you normally ask for. So how do you prepare for?
Oh yeah, so I think it's a fairly good question. So, it depends on how the conversation is shaping up, right? If it's a slightly more enterprisey, large scale company, they would expect us to come prepared with a deck, and they would have their presentation set up. They would have their projector set up, and they would say that, okay, please go ahead and present your deck to us, and the company management will be there, and they would effectively go through it slide by slide and ask me questions as they go along. Slightly smaller setups or some SME setups, maybe startup setup, I think it's more about whether we have done something previously which is relevant to their industry, right? So that helps a lot. So, for example, if we are going and speaking to an edtech company, I think the fact that we've worked with several edtech companies in the past and we built software which is similar, and we have our developers who already understand the nuances and the challenges of edtech, that conversation really helps, right? So it is usually a very evolving kind of a discussion. I mean, I obviously go prepared with my deck being handy, with some of the relevant examples of the work that we have done being handy, some of the design portfolio being handy. So I keep my material ready for sure. But it is very difficult for me, even after doing it for 11 years, to be able to gauge that what exactly will happen in the meeting is very difficult to predict.
Yes.
Right. So I effectively go in with an open mind, and I see who, and I obviously do some research about the person that I'm about to meet. I would like to know a little bit about, so I normally go and send them a LinkedIn request upfront. I would normally connect with them on LinkedIn. I would go through their background. I would know what kind of experience they have, what college they are from, if there's any commonality between us, right, which I know from before. So I do that little bit of research on my part. But then when I enter the meeting, I open my, I'm going with an open mind, and I'm just seeing how the meeting is evolving. Largely, it is about being able to mold myself as per the expectations of the meeting. So the present, if the person that I'm meeting is expecting a formal presentation, then let me do that. If they're just looking for a casual chit chat, and in that chit chat they want me to effectively tell me a little bit about my company, my background, what we do, what kind of projects we have done, what our team size is, all the usual questions that we have to answer. So and then the conversation stays focused on that topic. Right.
Okay, and what happen if you're trying to convince client? For example, we are creating this project in Node.js, but most of the client you face, I think they are not technical. So how do you convince them? Ki, currently Node.js is very demanding. You need to do this because in our company we have any type of developer. We have lots of type of developer. Sure. If client want, we can also create this project in Python as well.
Yes, correct.
But how do you decide ki this particular project, this requirement is are best suited in Node.js?
Yeah, sure. So good point. So there are effectively many ways of looking at this problem. The first and foremost is whether the client already has a technical team which is comfortable in a particular technology stack. Let's say, so the client already has a set of developers who are working in Node.js, and they are engaging us on a product which has to coexist with their existing product. Then I have to effectively look at Node.js as the only possibility, because I don't want my client to then effectively engage a separate team for this separate stack. So, for example, if they already have a team of 5 Node.js developers and they're trying to build some part of the product through our team, I think fitting in Node.js would be the most appropriate solution. If they are starting from scratch, then usually the discussion is such that I would first ask them if they have a preference, right? Because if the founders are non-technical, but they still might have some friends and their family who are going to give them suggestions on what tech stack is hot these days. So I would first ask them, but do you have a preference, right? So sometimes the answer would be yes, we've heard good things about Python. And then I would tell them that, okay, we can do Python, right? But they might sometimes say that we don't care. As long as you are delivering it, you take the responsibility of it. And then in that scenario, I would look at which is the most popular stack, which is the one which is the most appropriate for the given use case, right? And then accordingly, I will make a suggestion, right? So, for example, if we are going to do some very heavy duty let's say game kind of application, I would not recommend a hybrid platform. But if you're doing something which is more or less a CRUD operation with some APIs consumed here and there, data going in and out, Flutter type platforms would be perfectly fine. In the same way for web also, if you're doing something which is expected to scale quite a lot, Node.js would be great, right? If your client is looking for something which is just a corporate website, then I would recommend a Wix or a WordPress. So it totally depends on use case to use case. But my intention always is that let us suggest which is something which the client feels is absolutely cutting edge as of today, and whatever we build for him should have a shelf life of several years, so it doesn't start feeling outdated very soon. Right. So with that intention, we have to propose many of these.
As a founder view, we understand like how you decide the technology or the tech stack for a particular project. But Ankush, how do you, as a senior software engineer, how do you decide what is a best suitable tech stack for a particular project for a given requirement?
Okay. So basically, it's depend 2 to 3 point. Mostly the client requirement is always on the top. If client want, we are doing this in Node.js. So basically, we have to do this in Node.js.
Okay.
But suppose client is non-technical. So now we are the one, me and Gaurav sir are decided that this particular project is basically best suited in Node.js, for example. So yeah, after we onboard that client and we are finalized that Node.js is the best suited language for the requirements. So now the main problem, now the main challenges arise. Because we after already we have already discussed multiple things with the client, so we know who can face the client, who are the developer, which we have lots of developer, which one is the best developer who can who can discuss the few things with the client, who can manage the client. So that is actually non-technical thing, but we need to analyze this thing. For example, Anubhav is good for managing the client. So I think that thing also matters.
That matters. I mean, so it is, in my opinion, I think that matters a very, 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 I mean, it matters more than what most people think. I mean, clear-cut communication, timely communication, promptly responding to client requests, if you are stuck somewhere, telling them upfront, these kind of soft skills, as I would normally put it, are also as important as doing a good job in the software delivery process, right?
Exactly.
You need to understand, everybody needs to understand that whoever we are working with normally is not co-located with us in this office. They are working with us from either some other city, sometimes some other country in a different time zone. We have never met each other in person, but still we are working together. So it is a huge leap of faith that a particular company has put on us for delivering something which they aspire to build, right? And the only way that they can sense and they can judge that we are doing a good job at it is by prompt communication, right? If we do not respond to messages, if we do not respond to Slack messages or emails or WhatsApp messages, whatever the mode of communication is, even if you are doing a great job behind the scenes, people start to lose confidence.
Correct.
Right? So that is the reason, if you notice, many times my suggestion to both of you, specifically being senior people, is that keep the communication even more, even if it requires over communicating, do that.
Yes.
But do not under communicate. Even if you message somebody at 10 o'clock in the night, it's fine. But make sure that message goes through. Even if you're stuck, even if the problem is not done, half done, whatever, just make sure that we communicate it.
Correct.
By staying silent and by not reporting it, you create more concerns for the client than just by saying that yes, that it's acknowledged, we are working on it, and we are going to deliver it in 2 days. That itself gets 90% of the job done. Right. So that is an aspect I feel is something that and rightly so, Ankush, I think as you become a senior software engineer in the company, I think this becomes quite obvious. I think what I just told you, I think you would have heard from me many times before as well. But what I have seen and what I think is largely missing, not at all their fault, is that people who join us initial stages of their career, I think these are the kind of soft skills that we as a company also need to focus upon. That we need to imbibe those things in our team members, because basic things, right? That you have to accept a calendar invite, right? Or you have to respond to an email if you are being asked to do something, right? Things like that sometimes don't come across as obvious, especially to new people.
Basically, right, users need to respond.
Yes, about yes.
Understood.
So, and I've heard many times that I did not know that I have to respond to that email. Okay. Or the most common mistake, reply all. Okay. So you would start an email thread with 4 people, and then somebody would reply, and then basically remove everybody from the thread, right? And then again you would loop back somebody, and then again they would reply or remove everybody from the thread. So those are the kind of things I think that communication aspect of client management and obviously work management also. I think it is a huge. It is it is very hard for me to express how important it is. Okay?
Correct.
Look at it from your own. I mean, I always look at it from your own point of view. That if you are getting something done, and a company that you've engaged is sitting miles away, most of the people in the company, maybe except the founders, you've never met. How will you build confidence?
Yes.
The confidence will come from regular communication, by seeing project updates, by seeing regular demos, by being available when the client has a concern. These small things make a huge impact, in my opinion, when it comes to client satisfaction. And it is the most simplest thing, but it is also sometimes the most obvious thing, and people still don't understand it. And that is where I think you guys play a very important role to really convey that message to our team members that, guys, yes, you are great coders, we know that. You are great designers, we know that. But let's focus on this aspect as well.
Yep.
Right?
Understood. So I have one more question related to my last question.
Yeah.
So suppose any sprint is going on.
Yeah.
How important it is to you that everything is tracked on email?
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel about is it compulsory to everything whatever the sprint is going on? Suppose tech formulation is complete.
Yes.
Is it compulsory to send you an email? What do you feel about that?
I mean, my key thing is, I mean, it's not compulsory. Yes, it's not at all compulsory. I think it's, from my perspective, if you look at it, high level statuses is all I would look at. I mean, so the way that I typically look at software development is that, let's look at it at 3 levels, right? So the grassroots level, where you are controlling every single sprint, code review, everything that you're doing, and we'll come to that, the process of software development as well. You guys need to have a very grassroots view of how things are going and progressing. I need to have a visibility of if everything is going on time or not. And the client needs to also have a visibility, which is maybe somewhere even more abstract. But largely what I would care about is everything going as per schedule? Yes or no? And if no, then what is the bottleneck and how can we solve it?
Understood.
Right? Grassroots visibility, at least at the sprint level, at the task level, all of those things. Yes. I mean, because I've been a software developer, I think I appreciate that if I have access to it. But strictly speaking, I don't look into it on a daily basis. If my team leads are telling me that my sprints are on time, my Tiger boards and our Excel trackers are telling us that sprints are on time, from my perspective, we are good to go. Right. And I'm telling you, even from 99% from a client's perspective, also we are good to go. It's only when things don't go as per plan, then people get nervous. People get anxious to know what exactly went wrong. Why are we going not on track?
Correct.
And that is when things start to happen, right?
Exactly. If the client sense that thing, like my project is on off track,
Yes.
so they start chasing you.
Yes, they start changing. Absolutely. Right?
So they want each and every status of each and every task, like what is happening with that task, and when you deliver it.
Right.
So they start chasing you, and that actually pokes you.
Correct.
And then becomes another time waste to manage, right?
Yeah.
Now we have to, apart from the regular work, now a communication overhead starts to become 2x, because now somebody is feeling anxious and nervous that something has gone wrong. They may not be able to help us out in solving it, but they would still be very concerned. And I know that sometimes I am also on the same side, where I am creating pressure for you guys, because I know something is very important to our clients. They have a certain, because sometimes when I do product briefings, so I'll tell you about a little bit about, so when I do product briefings with you guys, I am usually very vocal about what our client requirements are. I'm also very vocal about, although you may not necessarily need that kind of input, but I'm always telling you guys in terms of what business problem we are trying to solve, what is the mindset, what is the vision of the founder that we are working with, why are we building what we are building, right? All those things I am sharing with you guys, right? And that why I do it is because you guys need to know that, okay, there is a story, there is a reason that something is being developed. It is not somebody's, it is not that somebody has just dreamt something overnight and now they've now come to us to build it. There is a proper vision. It is somebody's dream, somebody's aspiration to have a product built so that it turns into a successful business for them. So there are a lot of priorities and deadlines that we have to adhere to so that this discussion, so that these kind of this process can go through. There are usually some marketing events planned, some social media events planned, some SEO effort planned. Delays on our part also derail those efforts.
Yes.
Right. And because of that reason, I feel that it is important for our team to communicate that to our client so that if there is a delay, at least he can take corrective action. By not communicating, we are basically putting him in a spot where he doesn't know what to expect, and that is what creates communication gaps and then creates issues, which then definitely I don't want to create, and I want to minimize it as much as possible.
Yes.
Right.
I'll do the same thing with my team, right? So let's say you introduce a product with us, right? And we have to like make a plan, proper planning, project plan, right? And like divided multiple tasks into sprints and then task and user stories and etc. When I do the technical stand-ups, right? So I clearly put that point. I brief my team and brief the history of that project, like why this project exists, what is the aim for the client, right? So those things actually help to build that product and in a correct direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, I also point out couple of the things which treated as a red flags. So if you don't do that thing, this will become a red flag, and you have to raise it as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So those things I mention on a very first day, so that like project goes smooth.
I mean, good project management in general, in my opinion, is about knowing that something is about to fail. When something fails, everybody knows that.
Exactly.
Right? Correct. But if you are a good, smart product manager, project manager, or team lead, you know that something is off. I think with experience that that you get that intuition, right? Ki something is not going to land up correctly when I do my Scrum meeting tomorrow. And that intuition is there enough, at least to begin with, to take corrective action, right? And I'm sure, Ankush, as you will grow in your career, you will become more experienced. I think that intuition will keep becoming stronger with time, right?
Yes.
Anubhav probably already has it.
Yes, I'll find out like small red flags and mention prior on the on this sprint station.
Yeah.
So like I know very well if the project is off track, right? And just because of a particular point, which is I already mentioned in like day one, right? So I basically push the team in a correct direction. You already failed a particular checkpoint.
Yes.
Right. Now just do hard work to achieve the next one.
Yes, correct.
But what do you think? Sometimes normally developer give their timeline. Suppose so let me talk about myself. Suppose I'll give you a timeline around 2 to 3 days.
Correct.
But while working on the task, I'll feel like by anyhow it is not completed within the 2 to 3 days.
Correct.
So I want to increase my timeline, but you already plan a sprint, and Gaurav sir already decided about whatever the reason I don't want a sprint will be deployed on 10th of January. So suppose I want to increase my particular task timeline. How can I do that?
So
Because if I increase that particular task timeline, my other task will also delays. Sprint will also delay.
okay.
Your commitment.
So
also.
let's assume the timeline was provided by you, right? Now you are accountable for the sprint.
I know.
Right. If you fail that timeline, we all obviously like the timeline which you provided us, we all always increase like couple of percentage of that timeline and give it to client.
Yes.
We know very well like Ankush provide us this particular date for the completion of the sprint, right? But Ankush doesn't know about the risk management part. If someone of the team member, right, like someone of the team member like screwed up your timeline, right, or any mishap with that person, right, your whole timeline will like delayed.
That
Your whole sprint will be delayed.
And that intentional, Ankush, it can be such that it can be a natural cause. For example, somebody fell sick. That
Yes.
is one of the most common reasons why things would sometimes go on don't go on track. Other is you are a very sincere worker, right? But you've genuinely underestimated the complexity of the problem, right? That happens.
that happens.
Right, very commonly. Now the smart guy here, I mean, especially here Anubhav in context. I mean, let me tell you what I used to do when Anubhav was not in the team before that, right? Somebody would come to me and say that I'll build this feature in 2 days. Okay. I mean, I can see that it is not possible. Okay. I will say, okay, go ahead. Okay. But I know that somebody, let's say, of XYZ developers caliber will easily take 5 or 6 days to build it. Then I will probably take another day to review it. And this is like long time ago when we were a small team. Then I would normally tell my client 6 days in advance. But I would never tell it to a developer. I'll say, in 2 days, okay. Do it in 2 days. Okay. Now when the developer would come back with a very sheepish face saying that I could not, really sorry, he feels apologetic and he feels embarrassed and so on, I'll say, okay, go ahead. Take 2 more days, right? But the guy who's sitting, the team lead, the project manager, I think it is also partly his responsibility to obviously not overstress the team members, right? But also look at things, look at estimates that are coming in, because it's both sides, Ankush, right? Sometimes people end up overestimating also.
Correct.
Yes.
Right, something which is not more than 2 days of work, people would normally look at it at 5 days or 6 days. So that is also where the project manager or the team lead has to step in.
Correct.
And really question that why would something take more than 2 days, and what is the reason that you have. At least the way that I used to work is that I would ask first the other person's perspective in terms of why he thinks 5 days are required, because maybe there is something that he's seeing which I'm not seeing.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And if that is true, then I would be okay with that 5 days. But there can be another viewpoint here, is that maybe he's just simply scared of the problem, or he's not worked on the problem before, or he doesn't know where to start. So he's keeping a lot of buffer for himself just to make sure that he doesn't end up disappointing his manager later. So for those kind of scenarios, I think the discussion is such that, hey guys, why don't you just spend half a day in learning and getting yourself equipped with what the problem statement is, and then we solve it. It's right.
Understood. So I have one last question. So you are sitting, according to hierarchy, you are sitting very top level. So how do you judge on a very ground level that particular developer is doing extraordinary? How can you decide that Ankush is doing some realistically good product? And so is there any source? Is there any Anubhav will tell you? How do you decide?
Yes, and so it's a great question. I think it's one of those things which I think you very rightly pointed out that we need to sort out, because I mean everything in our company, appraisals, everything should be dependent upon how somebody is performing, and it is absolutely clear that for a team of our size, it is practically not possible for me to be one-to-one or to be able to interact with everybody on a daily basis and know exactly what's going on. So I look at it as a problem where I'm getting inputs from various people, not just one. I don't want to have manager bias. So for example, human nature is Anubhav might have some favorites in the team, because he knows there are some people who always get the job done. But then he also might be unintentionally neglecting other people who could be equally capable. Right. So the way I look at it is as a problem where I'm getting my inputs from various sources. Now let me tell you what those various sources are. First source simply is manager feedback, right? Where let's say he's working with a developer directly, what he tells me about the day-to-day performance. Secondly, is the delivery of the project on which that developer is assigned. Is the project generally going on time, or are we facing repeated escalations? Third, when the project goes live, how many bugs are normally getting filed in the developer's name? Is the developer taking more time to fix bugs than the actual development itself, right? Fourth is client feedback as well. A lot of times our developers are directly interacting with the client, so occasionally I'm always talking to the client and asking them, how is the experience? Is everything going smoothly? If I get some feedback which is generally like a little bit of concerning feedback, then I would make it a point to go and speak to the developers on that point, or I would ask Anubhav to go and speak on my behalf. And the last thing which we do every year is also peer review.
Yes.
Right? which is where we have developers at the same level. We in that peer review we don't go to the next level, right? We go to only keep it at the same level, and we ask people to anonymously yet very very openly we rate each other, and there are many aspects about a person that we get to know which we otherwise will never get to know, right? So all these pointers collectively help me understand how things are going in an organization rather than just one or two factors, because those one or two factors can be heavily biased, and I do not want to make that mistake of making somebody's bias my only way of deciding whether somebody is a good fit for the organization or not, right? And even if things are a good fit, let's somebody is a good fit, or let's say in another scenario somebody is not turning out to be a good fit, my approach here is actually very straightforward. What I've seen, what I've learned over time is sometimes just good, crisp, to the point feedback helps people improve.
Yes.
Right? Only thing is you have to be very clear in your expectations, right? If you tell somebody, I am not happy with your work, no action will be taken.
Correct.
Right? But if you tell somebody, your programming requires a little bit of speed up, or maybe you require to focus more on your AWS skills, or something very concrete, tangible, which the developer can then use to improve himself, that feedback in general 90% of the times would be taken very constructively. People would fix it, they would try to solve it, and they would try to improve themselves, because they would also be happy that somebody has cared enough about them to be able to spend time and give feedback, right? I can always whitewash everything by saying ki it's not going well or it's going fantastically well without giving specific inputs about anything. But as a manager, my approach has always been to point out where exactly the challenge is. And I'm hoping, and I'm really, really, really expecting that you guys also need to follow that same strategy instead of giving blanket whitewash feedback, which makes no sense to anybody. Is that you?
Right.
So thank you so much, everyone. I think it was a very great discussion, and it's actually always whenever you come, always so much to learn from you. Yeah, thank you so much once again. Yeah.